the gap between what The Sims 4 needs and what Paralives is going to need is bigger than you think. Paralives is an open-world life simulation game with no loading screens between lots. That design choice drives every spec on this list. Let's go over what each spec actually means in regards to Paralives. So for your RAM, you need 12 to 16 gigs. Paralives loads the entire town at once. Characters, buildings, objects are all active simultaneously with no loading screens between lots. That convenience costs memory. 12 gigs is the floor. If you have less, the game will stutter or crash when the open world populates. Your GPU, you need a GTX 1060 minimum with an RTX 2060 recommended. And this is because the stylized graphics look simple, but the rendering load is high. Curved walls, real-time color wheels, dynamic lighting across an open world, all of that runs through your graphics card. The GTX 1060 is a 2016 card. Any older than that is below minimum. There is no software workaround for an underpowered GPU. For your CPU, you need an i5 or a Ryzen 5. The processor handles the simulation layer, which includes your para-autonomy, emotions, needs, and pathfinding across the open world. Your clock speed matters a lot here. A 2.5 GHz i5 from 2017 is not the same as a 3.0 GHz i5 from 2023. So check your clock speed, not just the model name. For your storage, you need at least 8 GB and an SSD recommended. The install size of this game is pretty small, but an SSD will dramatically reduce initial load times. If you're going to be running Paralives on a mechanical hard drive, you can expect longer loads into the open world at startup. Paralives will be in access for at least a couple of years, so if you end up getting it during this time period, please keep in mind that performance may fluctuate and the developers are going to be optimizing as they go through the 2-year early access period. So these specs may lower over time, but on day one, you need to treat these minimums as hard requirements, not suggestions. If you're finding this video helpful so far, please click like and hype it if you're able to do so. Here's how to check your PC specs. Click the Windows button on your keyboard or the Start button on your taskbar. Open your settings, then go to System, scroll all the way down to About. This shows information about your computer, such as your processor, how much RAM you have installed, and if you scroll down, it will tell you your Windows specifications. For your graphics card, you want to once again hit the Start button and type in the search bar, System Information. Click on that, then look for the Components section, and find the display. This contains a lot of information, but what you're looking for is the GPU model, which is usually going to be the second one. If you see more than one display model here, the reason for this is you've got this one up here, which is probably your onboard graphics, and then you've got your actual graphics card below that, which you can see mine here is an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 360 Ti. You'll want to compare what you see here against the table that I just showed you. If your RAM or GPU falls below the minimum column, your system will not run Paralives reliably at launch. So here are the Mac requirements. You need at minimum a Mac OS Big Sur 11 or newer, an Apple M2 processor, 12 gigabytes of RAM, and M2 integrated graphics. They recommend that you have an Apple M3 with 16 gigs of RAM and M3 integrated graphics. Now, there are 3 things that you need to know if you're a Mac user. First, this is M2 and M3 only. The requirements list Apple Silicon specifically. Intel Macs are not supported, so if your Mac has an Intel processor, Paralives will not run effectively or at all on it. Second, the RAM requirement is 12 gigs minimum. Many base model Macs ship with 8. So if your MacBook Air has only 8 gigs of unified memory, you are below minimum specs. The M2 chip alone is not enough. You need both the correct chip and the correct RAM tier. Third, you'll notice that M1 Macs are not listed on either the minimum or the recommended. An M1 can likely run the game, but performance will be way below the stated minimum, so you can expect extremely low frame rates and potential crashes in populated open world areas. If you have an M2 or M3 Mac with 16 gigs of RAM, you do meet recommended specs and you should be fine. If you only have 8 gigs or you're on an Intel Mac, my advice is to wait for further optimization during early access and see what the full release specs are before you buy the game. If you're below minimum specs on RAM only, that is the cheapest fix. Adding another 8 gigs of RAM should resolve the problems, but you need to check that your motherboard has a free slot first so you don't waste your money. If your GPU is below the GTX 1060 minimum, that is going to be a significant upgrade. You're looking at a new card, possibly a new power supply, and if you're really unlucky, a new motherboard. Do not buy Paralives until you have tested your hardware after doing any upgrading to your system. If you sit between minimum and recommended specs, then you'll be able to run the game, but you can expect lower frame rates, reduced draw distance, and longer initial loads. When messing around with the in-game settings, you'll want to lower your resolution first, then reduce shadow and lighting quality to get the best results. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe so that the next time you have a question about Paralives, you won't have to search as much. And if you want to know which mechanics work differently in Paralives compared to The Sims 4, click over here to watch that video. Thank you for watching, stay safe, stay hydrated, and have a great day.